So my plan today was to do a kind of like balancing my shelves. I was going to tell you all about the books that I read in January and the books that I hauled in January. But then this weekend I decided to have the great fucking idea to reorganize my entire shelves to fit the January books onto the shelf. So now they're mixed in amongst with all my books. So, yeah. This is what happens when you don't organize your life. So instead we're just going to sit down and talk about all the books that I read in the month of January. And I will just tell you whether or not I read more than I hauled, and tell you about some of my favourite hauls that I got in January, rather than telling you every book that I hauled in January. So, let's get started. So excited, I hit 150 subscribers last week, which is fantastic. That 150 people want to listen to me talk to a camera just blows my mind. So thank you to everybody who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. For those that are new, make sure that you like and subscribe so that you get new notifications when I put new videos out each week. And now let's just dive on into the books that I read in the month of January. So guys, costume change, sorry. Anthony came home last night and I had to stop filming because as much as he thinks he's quiet, he's not quiet. So I now have some time where I've come home earlier than him and I have time to film. So we will try round 2. We'll start with my DNFs. I had 2 DNFs this month. The first was Sammy I Love You by Sally Neilson. The main reason I DNF'd this one was because I didn't really gel with the writing style. It was very amateur, I guess is the only way to describe it. This is obviously a debut novel. I don't think she's released anything else. It was very much a like memoir, autobiography kind of story of an experience she went through. And I appreciate the story that she was trying to tell, and I appreciate the fact that I could empathize with her, but the writing just really wasn't what I was in the mood for. So I'm choosing to DNF this one, and I'm probably going to unhaul it, unfortunately. It's a quick, short one, and I probably should have been able to finish it, but I just decided I didn't have time to waste on books that just weren't dragging me in. So that's my first DNF of the month. If you want to know more about it, I will link it down below so you can check it out. It might be your kind of read. My next DNF is controversial, and that is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I wasn't hating this one. Like, I wasn't not enjoying it. I just found that I wasn't in the mood for an epic fantasy. And that's what this is. It's one of those fantasies that have a lot of complex character relationship twists, and it jumps back and forth between a couple of time frames, and I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't in the mood for it. I was running out of time before the end of the month, and I knew that my February was going to be absolutely chaotic because I'd filmed Pick Pong, and I knew that February was going to be crazy, so I couldn't carry it over to February, and so I cheated. I DNF'd it, and I read the summary plot kind of breakdown that tells you what happens in the first book as kind of like a refresher. So if you want to read the second book and it's been a little bit of time, you can do that. And I don't regret DNFing it, because even reading the summary of like what happens in this book, I didn't feel like I missed much. So I'm probably just going to unhaul and get rid of the entire series, because unless someone can sell it to me in the comments as to why I should continue with the series, I just don't feel like it's one for me. I thought I was going to love it, and it makes me really, really sad that I didn't, but yeah, wasn't for me. So again, DNF this one. Now let's move to a more positive note, some books that I loved this month, which there were a few of, so I'm excited. The first is A Twisted Tale. So this is Love by Elizabeth Lim. This is the Cinderella Twisted Tale if Cinderella never tried on the glass slipper. And I very much have been enjoying this Twisted Tale series. It is very well written. I love the fact that it retells the stories with this like twisted dark element while maintaining the true original characters and their vibe that they have. So I very much recommend this to any Disney fan or anybody who loves these particular stories. It is a fun way to re-experience the story with a little bit of a twist and a nice little like different ending, but maintaining the character's originality and the real reason why you liked it in the first place. So thank you very much for Scholastic for sending me this one. I very much loved it. So I also read Red Dust by Fleur McDonald. This was a fun one. I did this as a buddy read with a friend from Bookstagram. They were deciding to tour the world. So they are from America originally, though they are from India, and they have decided that they are going to read different books from different authors with Bookstagrammers from different countries. So I'm from Australia, Fleur McDonald is from Australia, and the book Red Dust is based in Australia. So she chose to read it with me, and we had a fun time. Even though neither of us actually liked the book, it was fun to have a chat about the reasons why we didn't like it. And there was a lot of Australian lingo in here she didn't really understand, so we had fun kind of discussing that and discussing, you know, how it was so normal and easy for me to read, but for her, she found herself constantly having to think about what lingo meant what, and that changed the way that she experienced it versus the way that I experienced it. Yeah, if you are after experiencing a very, very, very Australian-based novel that is from this was their debut novel. She's written a lot more since then. It is very in-your-face Australian, but it is fun and there is a little bit of a twist and turn. So if you want something that's around like an average 3-star rating. And what's even better is this was on my 12 books that will self-destruct in 12 months list. So I've officially finished my first book on that list, which makes me kind of happy considering that it's been almost 6 months since I made that list. Now, of course, we can't go past probably one of my favorite books of the month, which is Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City, or House of Earth and Blood. Everyone knows what this book is about. I don't really need to tell you, but for those that have been living under a rock and aren't aware what this series is about, this follows a character by the name of Bryce. Her best friend is murdered, and then 3 years later, the murder is led to be behind bars, but then deaths start happening again. And then so she is partnered with a man that she does not want to be partnered with to help kind of solve the crime, and it's in this awesome fae world, and it's true Sarah J. Maas. It's just, she writes that badass bitch character and the boy we all love to hate really, really well. So if you like her other stuff, I would definitely recommend trying it out. The only negative thing I have to say about this, and you can probably at me for this, but I'm going to say it anyways, is I think she should stick to YA. I very much enjoyed the increased kind of sexual tension and the increased ability for her to be able to use the words like swear words and things like that. But I feel like she almost tried to put too much into the first book to try and fit that frame of adult fantasy, like adult epic fantasy, and it kind of shot herself in the foot. I will continue to read this series and I had a really good time, but I almost feel like she's better off sticking with YA and just putting more sex scenes in it. That's my logic. Anyways, so yeah, good one though. Really enjoyed it. My book club pick was If You Don't Know the Words by Bianca, and this was a wild ride. I had such a good time reading this. This follows a story in 1970s Johannesburg. There is a young girl who is 9 years old and she is white, and she is taken on under the care of a black carer, and it kind of follows their story through a whole bunch of deep losses that they go through together. And it's just so beautifully written and it's so quotable. There were so many things in here that I just like absolutely loved and just instantly wanted to highlight, but it's a library copy so I couldn't. But it was recommended to me from so many people and I'm so glad that I finally picked it up because it was so good. Again, every single one of the books that I mentioned today will be linked down below, so if you do want to get a bit more information about them, you can check it out down below, because I suck at describing books even after I've read them. I will be the first to admit that. Another one where we go back to the negative, where I almost DNF'd this, but I did push through, was Go Set the Watchman by Harper Lee. All I'm going to say about this is that it is no To Kill a Mockingbird. This book was trying very hard to be as epic and as good as To Kill a Mockingbird, and it just wasn't. I only finished it because I had the audiobook and I could finish it on 3 times speed. I'm really upset that I didn't love this one. I was kind of expecting not to, considering it was my lowest rated on my Goodreads. So if you're a Harper Lee fan, don't read this because it's not as good as To Kill a Mockingbird. That's all I have to say. I'm really sorry. Now, I also read the audiobook of Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. That was on my NetGalley reads, and again, I was really disappointed in this one. I had such high hopes for so many of my reads on my January TBR, and I think I just overhyped Lisa Jewell in my head, and people made her sound like she was going to be this phenomenal thriller writer, and I absolutely love thrillers. But Invisible Girl just like really missed the mark for me in the way that it just didn't really thrill me. So if you think there's a Lisa Jewell book that I would prefer, let me know in the comments down below and I will definitely go check it out. I'm definitely not writing her off as a author, and I didn't hate it. I mean, I think I gave it like 3 stars maybe, but it just wasn't that epic thriller I was expecting. For my audiobook script kind of recommendation, I had to listen to Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. I actually hate this woman after listening to this audiobook. I didn't even know who she was before I got this come up as my suggestion. And the entire time I was listening to the story, I just was so angry. I just felt almost like she was talking down to me. And I felt like a lot of the time when she was telling me, do this and you'll succeed, it was a lot of the basic stuff that like we tell ourselves anyways. It didn't feel like she enlightened me with this awesome ability. It just made me feel worse about myself, if anything. So I don't know whether that's just personal preference, but I personally was not a fan, and I am never going to read or listen to anything she's written again in my life. Sorry. I didn't expect this to be so negative because like I felt like I had an even month, but now that I'm looking back on it, I realize there's a lot of reads that I just didn't fucking like. Now for the last book of the month that I listened to was In the Dream House by Carmen Micado, and I listened to this for the Books and La-La's Buzzwordathon with the word being dream. I was originally going to read The Lake of Dreams by Kim Edwards. Yeah, Kim Edwards. But I ran out of time. If I'm honest with you, I ran out of time. So I smashed out in one day a 5-hour audiobook to hit that Books and La-La prompt, because it wasn't on my Pick-a-Pong TBR, but I wanted to hit that prompt so that I can continue that for the rest of the year. So I really found that so confronting. For those that don't know, it's a memoir poetry kind of compilation. So it's a memoir, but it's written in like prose and poetry kind of style, I guess you could say. I listened to it on audiobook and that's how it read to me. It literally felt like I was at a poetry reading and she was reading her story to me. And it was so confronting. It follows a lesbian woman who was in an abusive relationship. And her words, like, I feel emotional now, like, thinking about it, because it was absolutely heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. The way that she described what she went through. And the way that she described that people just ignored her just because she was in a lesbian relationship. They were like, well, women don't abuse people, so you didn't get abused. Or, well, you were the masculine one in the relationship, so weren't you the one abusing her? Or like, it was heartbreaking. So if you are looking for LGBTQ representation, poetry, memoir, like beautifully written book, then I definitely recommend picking up In the Dream House by Carmen Micado. Alright, I'm good. And the final book that I read was The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini, and this was another book that I read for my book club. Again, another heartbreaking story that a lot of people will probably know about or will have read or already have on their TBR, but if you haven't read this one, it's very much a coming of age, found family kind of redemption story that will take you on this wild ride, and it will also give you a nice little culture shock, so it is definitely worth picking up, and I highly recommend Khalid Hosseini as an author. His other one, A Thousand Splendid Suns, is also phenomenal, so you should definitely pick that one up as well. But yeah, so do recommend this one for sure. So that's the books that I read in the month of January. That was a total of 12 books that I read in January. 2 DNFs, obviously, so I guess you say 10 books if you don't count DNFs as a read book, however you want to do it. And if I look at how many books that I bought myself or was gifted in the month of January, we will see whether or not it equals out. So we use the core pile spreadsheet from Book Roast. I will link her down below, and you can go check it out if you want to add that. And then I kind of add like a few extra things myself to it. So I've added a like book balance kind of sheet to it. So pretty much it's really basic. I probably don't even need to show you, I can just describe it, but I just have like January, and then I have books acquired and books read, and then it like calculates whether I'm ahead or behind in getting through my TBR. Well, in the month of January, I definitely was not ahead, because if I look at the books acquired versus the books read, I acquired 16 books. To be fair though, out of those 16 books, 2 of them were sent from publishers, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them were gifted to me. So I actually only purchased 5 books in the month of January. But I'm just going to show you some of the ones that I was gifted and some of the ones that I purchased that I'm really excited about, because the rest are on my shelf, because I'm a fucking idiot. So yeah. Anyways, we will start with some of the gifted ones. So the first up is The Return by Nicholas Sparks. I am a huge Nicholas Sparks fan. I have been for as long as I can remember. He is probably one of the main authors that got me back into reading or continued to keep my love of reading. I have his entire collection of books, and I didn't have this one when it came out. I begged and pleaded with every single publisher that I possibly could. I was like, please give me a copy, and I didn't get one. But I was just thankful that a friend of mine on Bookstagram was getting rid of their copy and was kind enough to send it to me. So thank you so much for this one. So for those that aren't familiar with this book by Nicholas Sparks, it follows an Afghan soldier who has been injured and has to return to his hometown where his grandfather has recently died. There is a kind of angsty teenager who may be able to give him some answers about his grandfather's death. And then there's a sheriff, which he falls madly for. And then obviously the rest ensues. The good thing I love about Nicholas Sparks is he always manages to include 3 of my favorite things in his books. First being beautiful characters. Second being a little bit of mystery. And third being some romance. So I mean, I'm always happy if those 3 things are in any book. And Nicholas Sparks manages to do that without fail and always really well. So definitely excited for this one. The next 2 were gifted to me from publishers. So the first up is The Griffin Gate by Vashti Hardy. This one was kindly sent to me from Alan and Unwin, and I am very, very excited to jump into this one. I requested this one for Gavin's Believathon, but it didn't arrive until well after the Believathon had finished. So I'm really, really excited to put this one on my TBR for March. I'm thinking for March that for my pick pong, I am going to try and fit only books from publishers, NetGalley, and advanced listener copies from Libro FM. It's going to be hard because some of my prompts may not lead to any of those, but we'll see. If you can think of any punishments if I can't like fill a prompt, leave them down below. So this follows the story of Grace. Grace's family are in charge of something called the Griffin Map, and this allows them to teleport around the country, saving and solving crimes. And she's too young to apparently be able to use the Griffin Map, but on one night, one occasion, she's left with the map and a distress call comes in, And so she goes on an adventure, and I mean, it's a nice quick read. I think it's going to be great. I've heard great things about Vashti Harding's writing from Gav at How to Train Your Gavin, so I can only imagine that this one is going to be fantastic. So I'm excited to jump into it, and because it's nice and skinny, I'll be able to get through it nice and quick, which is even better. So thank you, Alan and Unwin, for sending me that one. Next up is a proof that was sent to me from Harper Collins, and this is The World Between Blinks by Amie Kaufmann and Ryan Graudin. I love Amie Kaufmann and the work that she does with Kristoff, and I've also read her Alone series that she did, but I haven't read any of her other collab work that she's done, and I definitely haven't read any middle grade collab work that she's done. I'm really excited to jump into this one because I think it's going to be an epic adventure like most of her stories are. And this follows two cousins which are about to discover the world between blinks, and I'm pretty much just going to go into it blind. I picked this one knowing A, it was from Amie Kaufmann, and B, it had a stunning cover. But if you do want to hear more about this one, I will link it down below. And it's actually coming out today. It is pub day today as I am filming this one. So when you guys see this video, this book will be up and ready for you to buy. So make sure you go check it out. Now let's get to a couple of the books that I bought myself. So after being on a book buying ban for 365 days, I went a little crazy in the month of January, and I started looking on like Facebook Marketplace and a couple of secondhand stores, and I went a little crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I need this one, and I need this one, and I need this one. And then I slowed myself down. So some of the ones that I've bought that I'm really excited for. One of the ones that I'm really excited for that I purchased from Facebook Marketplace is Girl Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Bashardoust. This one I absolutely know nothing about. The person that I was purchasing another book off had this one, and she was like, oh, if you like this one, I think you'll really like this. We got talking about books, and before I knew it, I walked out with like 6 of the books that she was selling. But this one I'm really excited about. One, because it is stunning. The edition is beautiful, and it has this lovely like indentation in the front, which I love. A good hardback with a little bit of character. It definitely sounds up my alley because I love a good book about a nice badass queen, and it follows, you know, the blah of blah and blah. So it must be great, right? Because that's all the publishers can release now when they release a good book, is books with titles like this. But I'm pretty much just trusting the person that sold it to me that I'm gonna like it based on other books that we got talking about. So the book I did go to pick up from the person that I bought Girl Made of Glass and Snow from is Lifelike by Kristoff. I have book 3 in the series, but I didn't have book 1 or book 2, and she was selling book 1, so I decided to go and pick it up and continue to complete my Kristoff collection because I am low-key obsessed. I read like 3 of his books, and now I've just been buying everything from him, including gift boxes and limited edition Empire of the Vampire and everything else, because I think he can do no wrong in my eyes. I have absolutely no idea what this book is about. I don't care. I'm going in blind and knowing I'll love it because I trust him with everything. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Probably my most exciting purchase of the month, other than the limited edition of Empire of the Vampire. I got the limited edition signed copy with the black sprayed edges and that stunning UK cover. Oh my god. I can't wait for the Australian edition to come. These last 2, I was actually really surprised to find. So the pharmacy that works 2 doors down from me has like this book cart kind of thing where it's gold coin donation, and it's usually full of crap. Like, if I'm honest, it's full of those books that are falling apart or super crap. So I was really stoked to find these 2 on there because there's not usually much that ends up on there worth looking at, but I have to go there like almost every day while I'm at work, so I always check out the rack and see if there's anything. So I was stoked to get these 2. The first is Mythos by Stephen Fry. I brought this home and Anthony was like, this is amazing, you need to read this like instantly. And then he didn't put it on my February pick pong because I said to him that any book I bought in January wasn't allowed to end up on my February pick pong, because otherwise I'm always just going to read my new books and never read the books that I'm trying to get through. So if he has anything to say about it, this will end up like on a TBR very soon. So Mythos, from my understanding, is a Greek god kind of retelling. From the birth of the universe to the creation of humankind, Stephen Fry, who fell in love with these tales as a child, retells these myths for our tragic, comic, fateful age. Witness Athena born from the crackling open of Zeus's great head and follow Persephone down into the dark realm of Hades. Experience the terrible and endless fate of Prometheus after his betrayal of Zeus, and shiver as Pandora opens her jar of evil torments. The Greek gods are the best and the worst of us, and in Stephen Try's hands, they tell us who we are. Mythos, smart, funny, and above all, great fun, is the retelling we deserve by a man who's been entertaining the nation for over 4 decades. So I'm really excited to jump into that, because lately I've discovered that I'm slightly excited and obsessed with retellings and Greek mythology. So, exciting. And the other one I managed to pick up was Harlan Coben's Runaway. I just have this because when I first joined Bookstagram, like 12 months ago maybe, everybody recommended when I went to do like book fairs and things like that to always look out for Harlan Coben because he's a really good thriller writer. So now I've just kind of made it my mission to collect a lot of his books. Yet to read one yet, but you know, just added to my collection. I mean, it was a Gold Coin donation. I figured, why not? So do my books balance this month? No, they do not. Do I care? No, I do not. Will I do better next month? Hang around and find out. If you've come this far and you like what you see, make sure that you give me a little thumbs up, a little comment down below, and subscribe so that you get notifications when I put out new videos each week. And until next time, guys, happy reading!